So we are continuing our lectures on shares. We had a little interruption. Today, remember, is the 24th of February 2021. Yes, Mr. Izuna, quickly.
Yes, the rights issue. Can we say it is the right to buy first?
Yes.
Can it be contained in the memorandum? Like in a private company where I don't like a Delta man to come and join our family.
Yes, yes.
So I say no, he cannot be part of it. So
yes.
Giving the right to buy first.
Yes.
So this bonus shares, can it just be seen as okay? The right is the right contained in the memorandum.
Yes.
Then the bonus is a privilege.
No, you can sit down. Let me explain. You can sit down. Can we continue?
Yes.
What we are saying is that the right, just like you explained, the rights issue is a right to acquire. We are simply saying that before you bring in an outsider to acquire these shares, first of all, give us who are already shareholders. And in giving us who are already shareholders, you must give it to us in proportion to what we already hold. So you want to issue out 5 shares to raise 1 million naira. And we already have 3 shareholders, Apam, Mr. Sufi, and my brother Pereowei. She has 40% already. So the right she has to acquire from these 5 shares is a right to acquire 40% of it. Are you with me? So she will have to bring another 400,000. Then we will issue to her 2 shares. Mr. Sufi has to bring another 400,000. We give to him another 2 shares. So his shares will now be 6. Our own will now be 6. If he decides to also take it on, his own will now be 2. No, his own will now be what? I think 4. Good. So what has happened is that we have maintained the status in terms of percentage. In terms of percentage. Something like that. At least you have the gist of what I'm trying to say. Excellent. Bonus shares, we are simply saying we want to give out 10 shares as gifts to our shareholders. We already have 3 shareholders. Each of them has a proportion of the company's shares. So Mr. Sufi, we are giving him 40% of these 10 shares as a gift. If he had 50%, then it will be, so it depends on your percentage. He will give it to you as a gift. Again, to ensure that there's justice and there's balance. Let's move on quickly. Time is going. I have to rush very soon. Okay, so these are just terminologies I want you to know. Now, other terminologies, let's see if we can touch on them briefly. Warrants. Warrants. W-A-R-O-R-A-N-T-S. Warrants. Warrants, you will not really see them again, but let me still point them. Because if I don't point them now, you go somewhere, you say, they do not teach you well. So a warrant is a document entitling the holder to subscribe for equity capital of a company at some future date. A warrant is more or less like an entitlement. An entitlement. I could give a warrant to Mr. Izuna. The warrant is an authorization, or I'm entitling him to acquire the shares of the company at some future date. The whole idea is that currently, the value of the company's shares, the value is 10 naira, but he has a share warrant. He doesn't have to buy now, but by the time the value of the company has risen, the share has risen to 100 naira, he can come in and cash in his option. By buying what is 100 naira at how much? 10 naira. So he has made profit of 90 naira. Let me take it again. I'm giving to you an option. The value of this company's shares is going for 10 naira. But I'm saying, Mr. Sufi, take this share warrant. And at your own option, you can now come and exercise it. You can decide to wait. If the company does badly, and the share value drops from 10 naira to 2 naira, you may not want to, because that is a loss. Because you are now buying something for 10 naira that is being sold at the stock market for 2 naira. But let's assume that the company does well and the value of the shares has risen to 50 naira, you can now cash in your warrants and acquire them. Acquire those shares at the agreed value, which was 10 naira. But now you are buying it for 10 naira, but you are selling it almost immediately for 50 naira. That is a share warrant. Kama has abolished it. There's something else. Yeah, Kama has abolished. There's something else you see called bearer shares. Bearer shares also abolished, but at least it's good that you should know it's bearer shares. Section 174 of Kama has abolished. What is a bearer share? It's simply, normally every share ought to be registered, or every share ought to be registered. But a bearer share is an unregistered share. Whoever has the share certificate, whoever possesses the share certificate, has the right to dividends in the company, but it's not registered in the company's register of members. So people who are fraudulent, people who want to evade tax, people that want some level of privacy, not necessarily fraudulent, but they want some level of privacy, they opt for this option. It used to be popular in the past, but it has consistently been abolished by virtually all the civilized countries of the world. But Panama still has what you call bearer shares, because Panama is a haven for people that want to evade tax, launder money, and do all manner of establish what they call shell companies and all that business. So let's rush. So we are looking at issuance of shares, and please look up section 173. Okay, so I will just try and explain the difference between allotment and transfer. Allotment and transfer. Can we continue?
Yeah.
Are you getting tired?
No.
Okay. Okay, so please look up allotment. There are some terminologies I want you to know. Share issue, share allotment, share transfer. They are different. Usually transfers are between shareholders inter se. Usually they are done between shareholders. Usually the company does not have any business with transfer. The only business of the company is to lodge that transfer. So if APAM decides to transfer her shares to this my daughter, your name again? Good. Rebecca Campbell. What will happen is that she will execute an instrument of transfer to her. Having done that, she will give her a share certificate. Rebecca will take the share certificate and the instrument of transfer, which is usually a contract document. She will take these documents to the office of the company. I have now bought APAM's shares. The company will receive both, cancel the share certificate issued originally in her name. Are you with me? Yes. And reissue to this young lady a new share certificate. Number two, APAM may have 10 shares and sells or transfers or gifts, whatever she wants to do, 8 of those shares to this young lady. In which case, APAM still has 2 shares. She's giving out 8. What will happen in this case is that APAM, not her, APAM will go to the office of the company. Are you with me? With the instrument of transfer as well as her share certificate, the company will receive both and cancel the share certificate and issue to her a new share certificate and issue to her a new share certificate. These are procedural matters. You see them in law school. So that is basically transfer. Companies are not usually involved in transfers. The only time a company can be involved in transfer of shares, please note it, I may just ask you in the question, the only time a company will be involved in the transfer of shares is if a shareholder, for example, has failed to pay for his shares. He has failed to pay for his shares, and the company deems those shares forfeited, or the whole idea is that if you fail to pay and they call upon you to pay and you default in paying, you have forfeited those shares. The company can now receive those shares and re-transfer. Apart from such instances, companies don't transfer. what they do is that they issue. Are you with me? Are you with me? Excellent. So I want to now look briefly at issuance and allotments. See, some cases is already, I've sent you the material, but still note it. FATB versus Eregbu. FATB versus Eregbu. Thank you, Lord. FATB versus Eregbu. Thank you, Lord. So, let me explain again. The difference between allotment and issue. Allotment and issue. Again, like I said, they are usually used interchangeably, but some subtle distinction can still be seen in both of them. Particularly when a company decides to raise money from the stock markets. When a company decides to raise money from the stock market and they inform the public to come through a notice, we are about to raise money, please come and acquire our shares. You go to the office of your stockbroker or the bank, as the case may be, or they call licensed financial houses. There will be forms, so the bank will have a number of these forms. If it's First Bank that is trying to raise this money, if you go inside First Bank, you see these forms are many. You simply take one and you now fill. Are you with me? How many shares do you want to acquire? Because we are issuing 1 million shares to the public for 10 naira each. How many shares do you want to acquire? So you fill these documents. When you do that, you submit it to the bank will definitely have a dedicated office, maybe one table, a lady could be there receiving them, you give it to her. Or your stockbroker, he receives them from you. You have made an offer to the company. So the offer that the company actually does by coming to the public is actually an invitation to what? To treat. You now go to the office of the company, you fill these documents. Prosper is looking at me, I want to laugh, it's so serious. Can we continue? Can we continue? Excellent. You know, I'm videoing people. When I listen to the audio, at least some of you have listened to it, I call some names. When I call the names, I have forgotten these persons. You know, so in the course of my teaching, I told this person, who is this person? But now as I'm talking, I'm seeing your face. Okay, let's come back. You know, so you fill this document and you write that you want 100 shares. You will pay the money immediately to your stockbroker, or you pay it immediately to the bank, as the case may be. You have made an offer. At the end, the company that is trying to raise this money will definitely have a time frame to now assemble all the offers that have been made. The shares may have been oversubscribed. Good. So they were trying to raise 1 million. In the end, the people that brought in money brought in 300 million. What they need is 1 million. They have 300 million. Definitely, they have to reject the rest. Are you with me? So they now have to do what they call allotment. They will set up an allotment committee. And they could now write to Mr. Sufi and say, Mr. Sufi, we received your offer, because you made the offer. We received your offer. You asked for 10 shares. Because our shares have been oversubscribed, we are giving you 8. We are returning the surplus of the money you paid. That is an allotment. So the allotment is an unconditional offer given to you that entitles you to be issued shares. Having made this allotment to you, they will now formally write to you and say, we now issue you 8 shares and then give to you a share certificate. So the allotment is not necessarily the issuance of the share. A person does not become a shareholder by mere allotment. He must actually be issued the shares to which he is entitled. So please look at that authority again. Can we move on? Excellent. Please see irregular allotments, section 153, irregular allotments. Note it. If an allotment is done irregularly, does it automatically void the process, or is it voidable? Please look up section 154, return as to allotment. 154, return as to allotment. The whole idea is that you have to get back to CAC. Once you have issued these shares, once you have allotted shares, make a return to CAC. So look at 154. Look at 158, calls for and payment for shares. 158. Okay, so I told you that once, in practice, for publicly listed companies, they don't necessarily have this problem because, like I said, you are the one subscribing, you are the one making the offer. So at the point of making the offer, you're already paying. That is for public companies, publicly listed companies. But for small private companies, shares may be issued to you without you paying for them automatically. So if they issue you shares and you haven't paid for them, then the company will subsequently write to you. That is what they call the call. The directors will meet and now decide to write to you, okay, you have this time frame, pay for your shares. If you default in paying, then your shares will be deemed to have been forfeited. And when your shares are deemed to have been forfeited, the company can now do what they call re-transfer of those shares. So please look at 162. 162. No, not 162, sorry. 158 to 161. 158 to 161. I told you payment for shares, you could pay in cash, you could pay in consideration other than cash. It's not compulsory that you pay in cash. Okay. Yeah, something I just want to point again. I believe I said it in the record. Inequality of shares. What causes shares can be equal? I talked about classes of shares, but let me still mention it again. I talked about types of shares, but I didn't really talk about classes. So we could have different classes of shares. Even among preference shares, we could have class A, class B, class C, class D, as the case may be. Among ordinary shares, we could have different classes. Among deferred shares, we could have different classes. What makes a share to belong to a particular class are the rights attached to that class. So if your shares entitle you to the same rights as my shares, then we are said to be in the same class. So you could have an ordinary share that gives you a greater power than myself. Are you with me? A company can issue 3 different classes of ordinary shares. Class A shareholders have the right to appoint the chief financial officer. Class B shareholders have the right to appoint the MD. Class C shareholders have the power to veto this kind of transaction that the company wants to go to. So those are rights. Are you with me? Yes, so you belong to a particular class if you have the same rights. Note that. However, the sameness or equality of shares does not mean that the value of those shares must be the same. So it's not the money we use to determine if your share and my share are equal. It is the rights. I hope you are clear so far. Excellent. So you could have bought your shares for 50 naira. I could have bought mine for 200 naira. Different prices, but provided they have the same rights, then they are shares of the same class. Let me not overflow that issue because my time is going. Okay, so please look up section 164. Section 164, lien. The company has a lien on shares that have not been paid for. You remember lien from your commercial law. Is it sale of goods now? Sale of goods? Yes. Excellent. So the right of the unpaid, excellent. The right of the unpaid seller. So that same idea is brought here. So please look at section 164. Look at section 164, please. And you know, when you have a lien, because the company has a lien over your shares, it also automatically has a lien over dividends that should be paid to you. So you have 50 shares, we have made profit, we are declaring profit to all our shareholders. Because you are a shareholder, you are entitled to this money. Even though you have not paid for your shares, you are still entitled because you are a shareholder. But since you have not paid, we are exercising our right of liens. That's your dividend. We will not pay it. And so you die there. So please look up 164. There are some things I still need to touch before I leave here. Okay, the share certificate. The share certificate is a prima facie evidence of share ownership. Share certificate is prima facie evidence. Look at section 171. How do you establish ownership? Share ownership. Yes, it's important. Again, I draw this distinction. I think I said that in first semester. Share ownership is not equivalent to membership in a company. Discuss. It's a very simple question. Share ownership is not equivalent to membership. Somebody should help us discuss. Sandra the quiet. Help us. Share ownership is not equivalent to membership of the company. Discuss. In 2 sentences. Yes, quickly. Hey, my daughter, what is your name? You can sit down. Deborah what? Okay, so we have 2 Deborahs. Okay, no, this is Rebecca. So Deborah, help us. Okay.
So even if you're a shareholder,
yes.
if you are not being described as the register of members,
Perfect. The only way you can prove that you're a member of a company is that your name is in the register. So if your name is not in the register and you are the holder of the shares, then you have an equitable right to everything that falls upon those shares, but you still don't have the legal right. So I could buy my shares from Mr. Alfred. The company doesn't like me, or the secretary has refused to enter my name. I have equitable rights to all the dividends accruable to the share, bonus shares, rights issues, whatever. But the legal interest is still in him, in his name. It's something we did in year 4 now, equity and trust. Is it not so?
Yes.
Yes. So please see this authority, Pondmeyer versus Sparks Electric Nigeria Limited, oil field supply. It's all there. That should be number 39 of the slides I sent to you.
Pondmeyer versus
Electric. Yes, Sparks Electric. Okay. Excellent. So please see section 73. Somebody was asking what happens if a shareholder dies and all that, and I was talking about personal representatives. So please, you see that in section 173. I'm sorry, 173. 173. Okay. So transmission of shares is very similar to transfer, but transmission is usually used for involuntary transfers. You know, when involuntary in a sense, but it's not entirely always involuntary, because if somebody executes his shares in his will to his first son upon his death, then those shares will transmit to his son, but it is at his own volition. That is his will. But another sense of looking at transmission is where a person is owing and you are unable to pay your creditors, and they obtain a judgment against you, you become a judgment debtor, then the court will order that your shares in the company be transmitted. So in that sense, we'll say it's an involuntary transfer. Are you with me? Yeah. So please look up sections 179 to 185. Okay.
Section
179 to 185. Okay, so we'll end up today by looking at Transactions in respect of a company's shares, we'll say some few things and we'll call it a day. Transfer in respect of a company's shares.
Transaction or transfer?
Transactions in respect of a company's shares. And so you see that in page 45 of the slide that I sent to you. You don't need to look at it now, off your phones. When we are done, you can take your time. Okay. Remember again the capital maintenance rule. Cyril, what did we say about it in first semester? Capital maintenance rule. Yes? If they ask you any question, let me tell you how to answer questions. Start from the known to the unknown. Capital means capital. Maintain. Maintenance. From maintenance, you get the word maintain. Is it not so? Yes, maintain means preserve. That is how you answer. So you start from the unknown. Then yes, let's hear Mr. Sufi.
Capital maintenance is that you have invested in this company,
yes,
in the shares. You cannot just come up and say, I am no longer interested.
Yes.
I want to remove my capital.
Yes.
If you are allowed to do that, it means the company will fall.
Yes.
You will continue to leave the capital there.
Yeah.
So you
excellent.
remove it.
Exceptions, we looked at one major exception to this rule. Yes. I know you'll be laughing. You. And as he's not serious like this, tomorrow he may so do well in life. You know that it's the grace of God. As you see him like that. I have learned a lot of things in my short life. The students you think are even just, God will just put his hand on them. But it does not mean you should still be serious. I'm talking to you. You know yourself. I had classmates who, apart from the extra year that they had, they still went to law school and did poly, and they still came out with 10th class, but God put his hand on them. It's not by might, though. It's not by power. Kai, I have seen things in my short life. I have seen things. It does not mean you should be unserious, but I've seen things. It's not by first class. It's not by 2-1. It's by God's mercy. Okay, so capital maintenance rule. Can somebody help again? Mr. Sophia said, so what's the exception? That my daughter in eyeglass. Is it Winifred? That girl. Is it not Winifred?
Yes.
Help us. What is the exception? I gave us one exception. How will you be telling me sorry? Yes?
So when they are allowed to transfer their shares.
No?
Like when?
No, sir. Okay, go on. No. Yes, Mr. Sinte, Mishak, give us one exception to the capital maintenance rule. It's been a while. Yes, Mr. Etuna.
When the company ceases to be a going concern.
No. Steadfast. We talked about reduction of the company's share capital. Have we not talked about that? Yes. So the reduction of the share capital is a major exception. The whole idea is that funds plowed into the company cannot be withdrawn. And we use a phrase, surrender of withdrawal rights. That as long as the company is a going concern, we must maintain capital so that creditors, in the first instance, will have something to fall upon in the event of liquidation. But we said that in certain instances there could be exceptions, and I told you we'll look at more of them now. So those are some things we want to look at. So the first and major exception to the capital withdrawal rule, against the capital maintenance rule, is the reduction of the share capital. And we looked at instances under which that can be done. The company has excess funds. Are you with me? Yes. Funds beyond what it really requires. It passes a special resolution. It notifies the court. The court tells the company to settle a list of creditors. Creditors are notified. They are given the opportunity to object. If they object, the court could ask the company to settle them or to make some compromise with them, after which the court could now approve the reduction. And when the company does this, funds are returned back to shareholders, capital is depleted. So in this case, the very persons for whom this rule was put in place have been addressed, the creditors. So we want to look at some other instances. Also, we talked about the alteration of the memorandum in first semester. Did we look at that? Yes. So we want to alter the memorandum, particularly the business clause. Some shareholders decided to object. They are not comfortable. They have, I think, 28 days to rush to court. One of the things the court could do is to tell the company, please settle him, buy his shares back. So in which case you are being given back. The whole idea is that funds plowed into the company's capital cannot be withdrawn while it is a going concern. You have surrendered your withdrawal rights, so you are only waiting for dividends. But in this case, the court is saying, please take money and give her back, let her go, because you people cannot really work in peace. So these are some instances. Again, if a creditor if a member of a company is aggrieved, we'll talk about it when we come to minority protection. He's a minority shareholder and he feels that he's being oppressed by the majority. And so he applies to the courts for relief on the ground that the company is being run on the basis of in an unfairly prejudicial way to his interests. Among other things that the court could do is to also tell the company, please pay him his money, let him go. Are you with me so far? Excellent. So we want to look at other instances. First thing I want to say is that in line with this principle, CAMA or company law generally prohibits a company from providing finances for the acquisition of its own shares. Are you with me? Don't provide money. Somebody wants to buy shares in the company. Don't give him money to use and buy shares in the company. It may deplete the company's capital. It may be tantamount to what you call market abuse, because you may be giving to the public a false impression of active trading in your shares. I'm giving Izuna money to buy shares from me. I'm the one giving him the money to buy from me. This lady does not know what is happening between me and Izuna. All she is seeing is that there is trading. They bought 1 million shares from the company today. The next day they bought 500 million. What she doesn't know is that I am the one that's giving him the money to buy the shares from me. Are you with me? Yes. So it could be tantamount to market what? Abuse. So generally the law frowns against such things. Again, it frowns against a company acquiring its own shares. What they call share buyback. Generally it frowns against that and all that. And it also frowns against what we call redemption of shares. Redemption of shares. I'm giving shares, we're issuing shares to you on the basis that after 5 years, we're going to redeem those shares. It's generally not accepted. Of course, there are exceptions. We want to look at them. Just give me 13 minutes and we're done. Please see section 182. See section 182. So we are talking first of all about redeemable shares or redemption of shares. Redemption of redeemable preference shares. Redeemable preference shares. So a preference share, another feature about a preference share is that it can be redeemed. It can be redeemed. Are you with me? Yes. Yeah, it can be redeemed. Company law allows the company to do that. It's just like a debt also. The company could take money from you and issue to you what is called a debenture. A debenture is like a share. As they take your money and give you this debenture, they start to pay interest Are you all tired? Just give me 13 minutes. You can bear 13 minutes, can't you? Thank you.
Yes, we can.
I'm filling your head with company law. I shouldn't be tired. I've been up since 2 o'clock. And apart from Mr. Sufi and this man and maybe this man, I seniored some of you. I senior you times 2. That's in times 2. You divide my age into 2. You are the other half you have not reached. It's true. So be up and doing, and I'll be up the maybe evening. So try your best. And I'm not taking any power drink. So be strong. Receive strength in Jesus' name. Amen. Just give me 13 minutes. We are done. Okay, so please look up. So the company could issue you a debenture. Let me flow with me. A debenture is like a preference share. It's a debt. Every year we'll be paying you interest of 6 naira from this your 100 naira. But this will go on for the next 40 years. At a time, the company may feel that this money we're paying is now becoming a burden. Are you with me? To avert that, company law provides that the company should be able to redeem that debenture. And so they can call Mr. Kolokolo. I know it's 40 years to agree, but the thing is too much. Come and take your money. Are you with me? Take your 100 naira back. Sir, you can call it a debt buyback. In a sense, yes. So they have redeemed it. Again, it's a bit similar to mortgage. You have mortgaged your land. You always have the equity of what? Equity of what? Hey, who taught these children land law? Who did you people this thing? You did land law. Equity of what? Hey, the Lord will help us all. In Jesus' name. Equity of redemption. Once an equity, always an equity. So the mortgagee, the mortgagor has a permanent equity of redemption. That same idea is brought to company law. But company law is a little bit different, because the company can also issue an irredeemable debenture. But let me not jump ahead of myself. We are talking about preference shares. So the company has issued you a preference share. Ordinarily, the company should not, if we look at the capital maintenance rule, should not call you back and give you money and buy back your shares. Because the idea is that the company will be depleting its capital. But for preference shares, the law allows it, that a company should at any time be able to redeem what? The preference share. In fact, Kama has gone further by abolishing irredeemable preference shares. So please look at those sections I gave to you. Under what instance can a company redeem a preference share? So please look at the sections 147 to 182. Under what instance? Number 2, these are the questions I'm asking you. Under what instance? Number 2, where can the company source for the fund with which to redeem the preference share? Where can the company source for the fund with which to redeem the preference share? So you look it up, do some homework. Number 2, prohibition of financial assistance for the purchase of a company's shares. I've said that don't provide money to anybody that wants to buy shares from you. Let him go and look for money by himself. However, there are exceptions. What are the exceptions? Please look it up again. Look it up again. See section 183. Don't provide money to anybody to buy shares from you. However, there are exceptions. What are the exceptions? Look up section 183. Look at the exceptions. If the company is involved in money lending, a share scheme for employees, loans and all that. So please look it up. If you have any issues, when we meet next time, we can take the first 10 minutes and look at them. Or you discuss with the tutorial lecturer, as the case may be. So please look up 183. Lastly, look at 184. Share buyback, what we call a reacquisition of shares. Share buyback. Look at 184, share buyback. 2 things I want you to look at. What is the procedure, or what are the conditions that must be fulfilled before a company can reacquire its own shares? what are the conditions that must be fulfilled. So please look at 184. Number two, who can oppose any attempt by the company to acquire its shares back, to reacquire its shares? Who can oppose? Those are the things I want you to look at. It's all there in the slide. Who can oppose? Okay, so I think we should call it a day. What will happen is that, so we are basically done with shares. There are some articles I'm going to drop on the platform, so please read them up so that they open your head more. Then when we meet next week, we are looking at debentures. I have given you the audio. Kindly listen to the audio. Please listen. Everybody should listen, because like I said, the semester is short. The newcomer that we have is so elaborate, and we need to cover so much before I release you people to law school, so that you will not fall my hand. You will not be in law school, and because I went to see a student of mine, my children in law school, myself and my wife, I was in VI. I said, let me go and see my children. When I went, they were lamenting, cursing some lecturers here that they did not teach them well. But of course, I was exempted though. I had exempted myself. I had paid my dues. So that when you go to, you will not call me and curse me and say, all that one way. So please listen, so that next week, if God helps us, we can use one class, cover the ventures, and jump into directors. But everything I want to say, I've already said. What I'm going to do now is to go and listen to the same audio you are listening. Add one or two things. Update my notes. So you don't really even need to come to the class. So please, we use one class, cover the ventures, we jump into directors. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. God bless you.